Thank you very much. I think you already know Mike is from Bay Roberts, and you probably know a lot more about him than I do, but I know his professional life as a teacher. For those of you who may have recently moved into the area, Mike did a weekly column. Besides his professional career, he's been writing for years. Weekly column in the Compass featuring stories from the Guardian, from the Bay Roberts Guardian. And he's also well known through his role as a news correspondent for the Compass, Conception Bay Courier, Telegram, Independent, and the Klondike Gazette. And if that weren't enough of a contribution to the community, he served as a volunteer on many local committees, recreation committees, tourism committee, secretary of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 32, on many awards committees, and the Bay Roberts Youth Justice Committee. I'll ask Mike now to come up and talk about a little bit, give you a little background about the book, and read a little about historic Bay Roberts. After Mike's finished, if you have any questions, please bring them forward, and Mike speak up, and Mike will answer you. If he knows the answers, you can question.
Make the questions easy. Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up, and certainly a test to your love of the town and love the history of the town. I'd like to thank the town of Bay Roberts for their tremendous cooperation, and to loan staff for the use of these facilities. WWII, many a phone conversation to Margaret, Eric Dog, fantastic memory. So many people helped out in so many ways. Margot and Gary, Margot and Gary Frankfurt from Frankfurt Press, and their son Jerry, and all the staff that helped me so much. And a special thank you to someone you probably don't know, is Iona Bulgin at Memorial University, who did the final editing on this book, and she had to be the most meticulous human being on the face of the earth. And she did one fantastic job in editing this manuscript. The idea for this book, I guess, was born back in the 1990s. After Saturday morning chats with Dave Russell down at the old Guardian office, who used to give me permission to use the original copies of the Guardian. And from that, as Gary said, I used it to write my regular column for the Compass, and then the love of history just grew, and from there it became an obsession. And there was no stopping. I had to go from there. The book itself consists of there's 19 chapters. Many of you already have a copy now, and it covers everything from the early 1500s, and some of the stories go as far as the 1980s. But I didn't dwell too much on the last 40 or 50 years, because most of us, to us, that's not really history at this point. There's a number of stories that are rather intriguing, which I found through my research at the Provincial Archives, and at the A.C. Hunter Library, and at the Munn Library, at Colonial Records, what have you. And I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from some of these stories now. One is on the role of the cable building. We're all familiar with the Western Union cable building in Bay Roberts, but what a lot of people don't realize is the strategic role that building played in the First and Second World Wars. Okay? Probably things here that you haven't heard before. I'm just going to read the section that I have here. It's a full chapter on Western Union, and this is a subtitle for that chapter called "The Strategic War Role of the Cable Building." Newfoundland's Commission of Government identified the cable terminals at Bay Roberts, the Newfoundland Airport at Gander, the Bell Island iron ore mines, and the city of St. John's as likely targets of enemy attack during World War II. So we were in the enemy line of fire. The Commission agreed that a defence force be formed, and a proposal was forwarded to London, England. The British government initially proposed that 25 men per month be enlisted for a total of 300. The recruits would be given 1 month of extensive training, during which time they would be housed in the fire hall in St. John's. After their initial training, they would each have a monthly drill and a rifle practice. The Defence Force would then assemble each year for a week or two of extra training. The Commission, expecting a favourable response from the unemployed of St. John's, also wanted recruiting done at Bay Roberts and Bell Island so that members of the force would be available if necessary. However, early in 1936, the Dominion Office requested a defence plan for Bay Roberts. The plan was released on May 4th and included a defence strategy to protect the cables at Bay Roberts. According to the documents on relations between Canada and Newfoundland, Volume 1, 1935 to 1949, it would be necessary to post sentry guards at the Western Union Building. In a letter dated September 7, 1940, the Secretary of State for Dominion Affairs in Ottawa discussed the maximum concessions which could be made to the United States to allow that country to have a significant presence in Newfoundland during the war years. He stated that these concessions would not include the Western Union Telegraph Company. It was necessary, he said, to retain control of the Bay Roberts station. In June 1941, the Newfoundland militia took on guard duty at the main hydro dam in Deer Lake and the cable stations in Bay Roberts and Harbour Grace. The following year, on September 1st, this is interesting, a letter labeled Top Secret, sent from the Director of Military Operations to the Newfoundland government, indicated there was sufficient spare equipment to operate a few cables at reduced speed if necessary. This equipment was kept at a secret place, and where that secret place was, I have no idea. The Director also noted that the recently informed Army defences at the cable station were adequate against raids, but the Bay Roberts station, probably the most up-to-date and important cable facility on this side of the Atlantic Ocean, was one of such international importance that its defence required professional personnel. The cables to the town were the largest and heaviest under the ocean, and one was the fastest in the world. When American President Franklin D. Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill were given a private line on the link through Bay Roberts, security was further tightened and guarded by the Newfoundland Constabulary, the Newfoundland Militia, and Quebec soldiers from the Canadian Army. So that was just a small role that Bay Roberts played during the Second World War, and I found that very interesting.